Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is your boy Byron, yeah, aka known as Donald Megan. I'm just doing this video testing, and I just want to, you know, consider myself an Israelite. I'm new to this truth, and I've been studying, and I consider myself more Torah um, than Messianic. I'm not subscribing to the Jesus or Yahweh Shai theory. I'm just like strictly Torah. I'm dabbling with the Old Testament as well, but mainly Torah, right? Mosaic laws. I've just come back from Israel, and I had a wonderful experience. I was only there for say 6 days, and you know, I went to Masada. I went on a tour there. Had like a Jewish guy saying some inconsistencies with the history surrounding Masada. But it was a wonderful experience. Um, Also, more to the point, right? I kind of like because I've been to Israel before, right? Um, I kind of was looking more into not just touring and going on these like so-called religious tours and historical tours. I wanted to actually see brothers and getting straight to the chase, to the point. I went to a place called Dimona, um, which is South Israel, and everybody knows that there's a community um, there of our brothers who, you know, who they went through hell to set up what they've got there, and it was a beautiful experience. I was welcomed. Um, you know, I met the elders. They showed me around. He showed me around his house. I was a total stranger from England, but he gave me love, and I learned so much in the, like, say, I think I was there between 45 minutes to 1.5 hours. I didn't look at the time, but the time flew. He gave me two books. He gave me a T-shirt. You know, it was just a wonderful experience. And I'm one of these like Israelites now who believe that I'm based in England, so to go to Israel is not really a big thing. If you're from America or you're from the Caribbean and you're an Israelite, maybe like going to Israel is like a big thing, but it doesn't sit well with me. You can read scriptures all day and so forth, and I'm not going to call out no Israelite camps, but the one thing I would say is to study and try and learn the Hebrew. I think that is essential. I don't think you're going to get the right understanding on a lot of the things if you just stick to the English. It's a learning process. Um, I believe also that camps, right? You need to put the doctrine to a side. I think that you know in our history we've always kind of like how can I describe it? Went against each other, right? You know, we're a nation and we're a powerful nation, but we need to stick together. So if a brother's Messianic, he's Messianic. If a brother's Torah, he's Torah. None of this, I'm going to say that, GMS, slating, and that's not going to work. You know what I mean? Because, you got Israel's got enemies and people are going to pick up on the weaknesses on that. So I went to Dimona. It was a beautiful thing. Also, I noticed because there's a lot of brothers in Israel. There's at least two black areas in Tel Aviv. There's like Ethiopians, and then there's like I would say you've got a few black Americans, and you've got a few like I don't know if there's Nigerians and stuff like that. But they're okay. The Ethiopians though they kind of distance themselves. There's no connection right there. They just kind of like stare. They don't acknowledge you. But like when you see a how can I put it? Say you want to use the so-called term Black American. I'm so-called Black English from Caribbean Jamaican parents. Um, we acknowledge each other. right? So it's like, I want to say Israel recognizes Israel. Um, that's a good thing. Brothers are recognizing brothers, right? But I went on a tour going back to Masada. I went on a tour to Masada, and the tour guide was showing us around, and I bumped into a black couple from California, Northern California. They were near Frisco. Can't remember the exact place where they're from. And we were talking. I told them I've been to California numerous times, and I was trying to tell the guys that, look, there's brothers in Demona. You want to go there, visit them, visit the brothers, because they got a story and a half to tell, right? And the, the 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 black guy, he was like intrigued, while I believed his girlfriend was like, "Come on, I want to hear this," right? Okay, yeah, yeah, all right. I've seen some Israelites preaching on the streets in Northern Cali. I'm a little bit surprised that a black English guy is talking about his black Israelites. Come on, we here on some kind of Christian adventure. That's how it came across to me, how the lady was. But what was surprising was there was a white American who was over listening to us, and she said, right, and it was weird because I told the elders this. It's really significant because this white American lady came across and she said, I'm over listening to your conversation, and I've heard about brothers from Dimona and they're Israelites. She knew about that and she wanted to actually see them. And then she also mentioned about the Ethiopian Jews, that she wanted to see them. So the point was that she was in acknowledgement that, hey, you know what I mean? That one, this Jew Israelite thing is bigger than just the people what you just assume as the Ashkenazi Jews, because a lot of people when they talk about Jews they just think it's them, you know. But she had the awareness to know that you know Jews or Israelites, I like to use the term Israelites, are of a color. She was fully, and that was a beautiful thing. While then the black woman who was, from the couple, she was like, she was like, wow, this white woman. First, we got a black guy from England talking about Israelites, and now I've got like a white American and that's when she woke up and took a look. Now, I kind of like told this story to, who is it now? The elders in Demona. It's nothing but love and so on. I also went to a place called El Torad, which, according to one brother who I never met, unfortunately, due to the fact that his phone was off, and like I said, I was only in Israel for a very limited time, and I was staying in Tel Aviv, which is like north of Israel, and Arad and Dimona, Beersheba, you know, um, around the Dead Sea. That's like south of Israel. So, and I didn't have a car, so I had to use public transport to get to these places. I did extremely well. You know, I just had a wonderful time. Right now, going from the Masada trip, the Masada scenario, going into the Dimona thing. Now, before I went to Dimona, I went to a place called Tarad, and then you've got a castle, or the ruins of a castle called Hel Tarad, which, a brother, um, he believes that's Mount Zion. He believes that's King David's fortress, you know. Now, I went there. It's an amazing sight. It's amazing, view. There's, and I believe there's a case um, for that being King David's, fortress. It's definitely a fortress. It's definitely mentions about Jebusites and so forth. They say scripturally, you know, it's to a T. It's a very ancient, old fortress. So, I wouldn't dispute it. But I went there and it was such a powerful moment because I must have walked from a main road about maybe 3 miles, on foot and then walking all the way up this hill to the fortress. It was just a blessing. I have to thank the Most High for that because, I did it by myself and, I was only there for a short period of time, like I'm saying, I'll keep repeating myself on it, but it was a wonderful experience. Now, um, when I came back from El Torad, I met a guy who was actually, when we was in Torad now, at a bus station, I met a guy who was from Damona, a very young guy. In England, we say a young lad. I'd say he was around about between 21 and 24. And I was chopping up with him. We were talking about maybe, I'd say about 45 minutes because I know he missed his coach going to Dimona, right? So we were talking, and I was surprised because we were talking about the so-called One West tribe, right? And a lot of brothers are saying it's off. I actually, you know, think it is off, right? Because my parents are Jamaican, and I had a Cuban uncle, right? And I just think that that Jamaican people and Cuban black people are the same people, right? It's just that, from West Africa, they were just like dumped on different islands. That's, my take. I know that I've got like maybe more relatives in Cuba, right? So Jamaica and Cuba, more or less next door. And I believe that they're the same people. But the 12 chart says different. Now, when I was talking to this young guy, very nice and so forth, he was adamant that the 12 tribes was correct. So that surprised me because I didn't realize that, the Demona people subscribe to the One West 12 tribe chart, right? So, and he was adamant, he was, I'm new to this truth, and so forth, right? But I think, I personally believe that originally all the 12 tribes were black, but some of the tribes might have changed colors and so forth over a period of time with, mixing and so forth. So, there is a strong case definitely for native Indians um, to be Israelites. But I'm still studying and so forth, and I've got no problems uh, if a person thinks he's an Israelite because, as much as I can turn around and say, well, look, my parents are Jamaican. They definitely came from the slave trade. We're black. We fit the curses, and I can go with that. But maybe there's other sets of people who, if they feel they're Israel and they're sincere and so forth, then I haven't got an issue with that. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel, right? I'm on a journey. I read the scriptures. I read the history books. I do my best. I'm at the next phase now where I'm trying to learn Hebrew. And, you know, even the people now, right, I disagree with, I'm going to call our camps names. I kind of disagree with IUIC, with some of their doctrine, but I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from Zabach. But now I can see things which I actually disagree with him, but I still learn from him. And, it's like one brother said, that maybe 95% of Israelites who came into this truth and knew they was Israelites was from the One West, from mainly watching the One West video or seeing the camp. Especially, I'm going to be watching it. I'm in England, right? I know that there's camps in England now, but at one time, you know, I would even say that the people who are in these camps, because we've got GMS, we've got IUIC, we've got GLCC over here. Um, there may be one or two other camps, right? I learned from all of them, right? Whether right or from wrong. So it's a learning process, So I just want to say, I wish everybody could just like, not, the doctrine thing, it's getting a bit kind of like silly with the slating and so forth, But my thing is everyone to keep learning, keep the unity, and please, take a visit to the Holy Land. Because it is impressive. There's nothing, there's no reason why not to visit it. I just want to network with brothers. We're Israelites. I want to be an Israelite who, you know, as we say in England, we tie our shoelaces. We box up everything. So I want to learn the Hebrew, the native tongue. I want to, visit the land as often as possible. I want to connect with brothers, um, and you know, and move this Israelite thing forward. That's what it's all about, right? The doctrine and so forth, because what we're going to remember is back historically, people were arguing over the same doctrine. But the first thing is, I think one of the biggest things is to know who you are. I think it's a simple thing. To me, it's a simple thing, but to a lot of people who are, stuck in other things, that's a major thing. Christianity's um, and all this Baal worship, it's got a massive grip on our people. So, it's my first video and this, and I promise to do this video. I probably haven't done it the best way. I could have gone into more graphic details and that, but it is what it is. But the Demona people, seriously, I think you're a stranger, and I wanted to film some of the stuff. I met some of the elders there, who were there before their main guy passed away, and they were friendly. They hugged me. They greeted me. I saw some of the products they were growing. I never the biggest carrots I ever saw in the world, right? And the brightest orange carrots I ever saw was in Demona, right? So I mean, and these guys they're sticking to the Lord. They got their head covered. They're wearing the fringes. You know what I mean? They looked at me, and I think they would sort of kind of like checking me out at first, but the way I spoke with my sincerity and everything, and I told them, listen, I've just like caught a bus from Tel Aviv to Beersheba, change over at Beersheba, caught the bus then to Dimona. It took me the best part of 3.5 hours to get to you. I dedicated the whole day of just seeing these guys before I went back to England. That was my thing. I wanted to see these guys, to see these brothers, because it's an amazing story what they've done. And the guy broke it down to me. He broke it down um, about the Ethiopians, how they don't acknowledge them, they give them dirty looks and so forth, and that how the Demona brothers have been there since the 60s, and the Ethiopian brothers have only come to the land since the 80s, and that they now converted to Judaism, right, and so forth, And the thing about it is, just talking to the brothers, it just debunks the whole Rastafarian thing, right? Because just the way they are, if you go to Israel now, I'm not saying every single Ethiopian is like arrogant, not, I wouldn't use the term arrogant, but ignorant, right? That, how can I go and put it, right? I was there in Tel Aviv. I went to Jericho, and I went to, where is it, down the Dead Sea, and I saw them, and they just, they weren't being, they just didn't, it was almost like I'm getting more respect from a white person than them. So it really is a strange one, and I think that kills one to me. It kills the Rastafarian doctrine, because at the end of the day, they're not our people. Um, it kills the all Black Lives Matter, right? Because like I said, there's different types of white people and there's different types of black people. You know what I mean? Right? And history shows, right, that not all nations got on. So the rainbow religions, i.e. Christianity and being a Muslim, right, that sounds good on paper, but it can't work. In reality, it doesn't work, right? So with that, I'm trying to think. There's probably one or two other things which I'd like to go and say, which would be significant. And if anybody would like to leave any comments, please do. It's my first video, but I'm going to be doing more of these videos. And I want to shout out to all the Israelites, Zabach, uh, and all the one, whether the One West and the Messianic, that's all good. The first thing is our nationality. Put the doctrine to one side. The nationality is one of the most important things to know who we are, right? But to the people who are on the same belief, Judah Nazareth, and the other brothers who are Torah based or Old Testament, but mainly Torah, I'm going to be Torah all day, every day. You know what I mean? And I've got to study and pick up this Hebrew as well. I learned the Hebrew. I just want to say, not to keep repeating myself, and I hope I don't get too many nasty comments or anything like that. This is for my Israelite brothers. Just want to say peace, shalom, and you know what I mean. Everybody, be good. Peace.